Hey guys, it's Paul. So today I wanted to talk about strong Yu-Gi-Oh cards and why they're good for the game. So you're probably thinking, what is he? What? And you're right too. So I should probably lead this with maybe more of an example. Uh, some recent cards that are really strong are things like Divine Arsenal Zeus, or things like Forbidden Droplets. So these cards that have very useful strong effects that can help you win a game. The reason I wanted to talk about them is because sometimes you'll hear people say things like, okay, well, Zeus needs to be banned or something. Like, I'm not saying everybody thinks that, but it's something that I've heard around. I read a lot of comments every day. Trust me, it shows up. You might be thinking that's crazy, but there are people who say this. And so, the reason I want to talk about it is because I do think a lot of people sort of mistake, like, outright broken cards with just strong cards. I think that strong cards are a really good thing to have in Yu-Gi-Oh! For a number of reasons. The overarching reason really is that they keep the game interesting. So, just because a card might be powerful and maybe might cause you to lose a duel, you might like lose some games to it or something, that makes it a conversation piece. Do you guys remember when we first got the effect reveal for the card Triple Tactics Talent? And it was kind of controversial, right? Because you've got this card that has like a number of really powerful effects. Basically, what is it? Like it's confiscation, change of heart, and pot of greed all in one card. But like you can only use it if your opponent's used a monster effect in the turn. But like it's still just really good. Like the steal effect like doesn't target, and you've got this variety of powerful effects. And some people thought like this is insane. They just like this is crazy. They're just shoving these powerful effects in this card. Other people are like, it's like good, but I just don't see it really taking off. And like even now we've seen that Triple Tactics Talent, while certainly seeing some use, it's far from like universal acclaim. Some people use it and then they enjoy it. Some people swear by it. Some people are like, I'll pass. But when that card was first revealed, there was so much buzz. And that's the key thing here. That's what Konami wants. And that's what I think I would want from a game, is the idea of a powerful card that makes you think. Is this card too strong? Is this card trash? Is this card somewhere in between? Is this card like format dependent? I think that cards like that are the most exciting because it's like everybody has a different opinion, and it creates discourse and it creates conversation. And when you're really invested in a card like that, I think that's healthy for the game. That is what I want. I want players to have mixed opinions about stuff. Because if people are talking about it, then that means that they're interested in it. And I'd honestly rather a card be something like that than just a set that has nothing particularly exciting. Because we know what those sets can look like. We know what it's like to have sets that kind of are very underwhelming. We haven't gotten, like in Blazing Vortex, for instance, right? There's no like one archetype, like some new archetype that everybody's playing. So people only really looking at like the staple cards, and it has like two or three of those. But if a set doesn't have a really powerful game-changing archetype or two, then I think it's even more important that it at least has some staple cards. And staple cards are neat. The Arsenal Zeus thing that I brought up earlier, I think that's another really good example. I think Zeus is a very powerful card, and when used well and in certain decks, it can be extra powerful and maybe even feel a little unfair. For example, Zodiacs can make it with 4 materials, which means it's enough to like nuke the board twice, and it like sends everything. It's a quick effect, it's chainable, it doesn't have a hard once per turn. But Zeus also has drawbacks and counterplay. It's very much a dynamic card. So, much like how Triple Tactics Talent asks that your opponent has like used an effect that turn, which makes it a little trickier to use going first or like second or whatever, Zeus is kind of the same way. An Xyz monster has to battle. So a few decks like Zodiacs they can summon Borbo and swing pretty safely and then make a Zeus. And there's a few other decks that can do similar tricks to that. But you do have to get to like the end of a battle phase and then summon him in main phase 2, which means that you might have kind of relinquished your ability to do a whole lot of stuff in main phase 1. And making Zeus doesn't, immediately win you a game. Yeah, it can be a board wipe, and it's obviously chainable, and that's really good, but there's counterplay to Zeus. If you bring Zeus out and he's like the only option you have left, and you're just kind of like autopiloting into them, and then he gets, Solemn Strike or Solemn Judgmented, then, that's that. And if you're making Zeus with less than enough materials to use his effect twice, then Zeus is still very much stoppable by cards like Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence and stuff like that. And he can't like just chain his effect again and like, so there's definitely a dynamic nature to this card, and it alone will rarely be just the complete thing that wins the game for you. There will be games that are decided by Zeus, and that's fine, but I just mean to say that cards like that are fun and they're interesting. And we can go on, stuff like Forbidden Droplets. Obviously, it's a really strong card. It's kind of similar to Dark Ruler No More in that it's what MBT had a really great term for a card like this. It's basically kind of what he's calling an equalizer, where if you're the player going second, it's really good. Like Dark Ruler No More, you can kind of like shut your opponent's board off and swing over everything and basically equalize the game. Similar to something like maybe Lightning Storm, Evenly Matched, those sorts of things. I think Forbidden Droplets is a really cool card. It's kind of a high skill ceiling card, as they say. It's really flexible, it's chainable, it can be unreactable to some degree, but it also costs you card advantage, and it makes it kind of difficult for you to necessarily win the game on the turn that you use it, but it still can change the tide of the game if used well. But then also you don't want to have to waste it on only one card, because then it feels like it's not getting its money's worth. There's dynamics to it, and it's not completely saying your opponent can't play. It's not totally shutting them out. None of these 3 cards I've mentioned have, and so that's really cool. Even Lightning Storm, which some people might say just feels unfair, it's kind of the same story. You have to use it at the start of the main phase. Pot of Extravagance, you don't get to draw for the rest of the turn. You have to banish your extra deck. I think these are all great examples of powerful Yu-Gi-Oh cards doing their job of being powerful cards, being cards that are worth talking about, worth debating. Is it worth it? Is it not? Pot of Prosperity is a new one that's been coming up a lot. Some people think that this card is just not worth it. You don't get any pluses. But then I have other people that I've seen, competitive players who say this card is incredible. Being able to dig for as many as 6 cards and see, these high quality cards that you need to complete a hand or to just counter your opponent, even if it's only a 1-for-1, is it's incredible. And so I like the idea of cards that get people talking. I'm the type of person really in real life. I'm more interested in the discourse, I'm more interested in what people are talking about. And sometimes when you look at cards like this, ask yourself the same thing. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to in a way. If these cards are controversial and they're getting you to talk, and you're saying you hate them, or you're saying you love them, or you're saying they're broken, or you're saying they're trash, that means that they're kind of doing their job. Now, I get it. There are a number of cards that are probably a little bit more in the is this healthy, strong? I know VFD is part of that conversation, and there have been certain others, but even then, I think there's an argument that a card True King of All Calamities, it does offer something in this game that's a little bit more low-key than most people think. For instance, the existence of this card, True King, means that you're more encouraged to play slower, more control sort of trap-style decks. And a lot of people have said for a long time they wish trap cards could be relevant in the game again. Well, now they are, partly as a counterplay to a card like Calamities. And so maybe in that one way, Calamities is actually doing us a favor. Hey, Jill, I'm just talking, but maybe it is. Think about it. I don't know. So anyways, that's all I really had to say on this subject. Just try to kind of, when you're thinking of cards and talking about cards, remember that it's okay for a card to be strong or for a card to be effective. There's going to be exceptions. It's all, shades of gray here. But I don't think that really too many cards in recent memory have been just outright, unfathomably broken. You'd be surprised, right? There's always counterplay to stuff, and there's only a few extreme examples of cards that are just truly the worst. So that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think. What are other instances of cards where you feel a lot of people maybe think this thing is broken, but you honestly think it's fine? Or maybe perhaps even the inverse, cards that you really do think are just completely unfair and broken. But hopefully this video helped you, or at least helped some people, to expand their perspective a little bit on these cards, because it might just be that this is helping the game stay interesting and helping its longevity. Nobody wants a bunch of useless cards every single set. That gets boring too, right? Alright, so that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Drop a like. Let me know some other things that maybe you'd like to see me talk about here on APS Plus. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Faster.